So Scotland comes around, and then I heard you were stuck in a hotel for 4 weeks.
Oh yeah, mate, that was crazy. Isolation, bro. So I came over, did 2 weeks of isolation. There's windows, but they don't open in this hotel.
Oh my God.
And it's pouring rain, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
that'll be a reality shock for you as well.
well, I'm looking out the windows and I'm going, something's wrong here. Like I've made a bad decision here. So
Yeah.
I pop out after that first 2 weeks, so relieved. The very first day we start training, there's a COVID case.
Oh my God.
I have to go back in and isolate for another 2.
Jesus.
So it's proper Shutter Island in
Yeah.
this hotel. It felt like I was doing time.
Did you just have like a PlayStation and a TV?
I had no PlayStation, bro. It was tough times. I won't be able to say on this podcast what I was getting up to with that. You know what I mean? But it was lonely times. Oh geez, I was so happy when I got out of it. And then when we popped out of it, I got to meet all the lads because it was the end of the season. I got to have a couple beers and introduce myself and then so it was a rough start, but once I got out and I got to know all the lads, man, I already felt like it was the right place to be.
It was worth it.
Yeah,
it was worth the pain. And who's the closest? Like, who's your closest pal on the rugby team?
I would say at Glasgow, they call us the Antipodeans. I never was aware of that word until Pete Murchie came up to. All the Aussies and Kiwis were around each other. And Pete Murchie came up to us one today and was like, the Antipodeans. And I had to go home and put it in Google what that was. But yeah, most of the Aussies and Kiwis, we do hang out with each other a lot, like guys like Tom Jordan, Josh Mackay, Jack Dempsey, Sam Talakai now, Sione Tuipulotu, who's at the club. They're my closest mates. But I'm also like real close with a lot of the Kyle Stain, George Horn, those lads that I've played with now for the last 4 years. I'm real close with, and I think when you go into the Scotland environment, it's good because you hang out with the Glasgow boys all year and you get to freshen up a little bit when you go because you get to get to Scotland because you get to hang out with Finn who's at Bath or Dewey and my brother who's at Edinburgh. So most of the lads I'm real close with, to be honest.
Yeah, I saw a really sort of heartwarming video of you and your gran.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Because she came to surprise you from Australia, right?
Yeah, it was unreal, bro. To be honest, bro, the reason why it was so shocking for me is because every campaign comes across and I ask my mum if I can get my gran here, and she's like, it's not possible. Like she wouldn't be able to handle it on, a flight over and
long flight as well.
Long flight. Yeah. And I was just like, yeah, fair enough. So I gave up on that, like I was just like, it's not going to happen. So when I walked into that room and I saw her, bro, like, and also for me as well, I'd been away from the 3 years in Japan and also the 4 years here, that's 7 years away from home. She looked exactly the same to me. And like, that's what made it so like nostalgic almost, is that it felt like I was a kid walking into my grandma's house before, and when I saw her, she just looked how she looked when I was a kid, 7 years ago. So it was such a special time. And for her to, I suppose at that age, and I don't want to offend people that are a little bit older, but life becomes a little bit less interesting than what you were when you were 18, 19, 20.
Yeah, you can't do as much.
Yeah, you can't do as much, You're not as active, but to have such a big moment in her life at that age, I was just so stoked for her, and I'd watch her, go through her hardships in her life, and to see her have that such a crowning moment, like she handed over the cup to me, and that's usually what Princess Anne does.
Yeah.
So like I just, to more so for her than me, I was so happy for her to have that moment, and she loved it. She loved the attention and she loved being the greenie granny, and she'd walk around and get noticed. It was so hilarious. I was stoked for her, man.
Yeah. And what's your the relationship with your parents like? Has it always been pretty good? Have they come over here as well, or are they still?
Mate, I had a dream childhood, and I've always been real close with my mum and dad. My mum and dad have both been over, but to be honest, every time my dad comes over, I get hurt. He was over here the whole Six Nations. And he was here the last Six Nations as well.
That would have been good though if you were in a shit place mentally.
Yeah, exactly. He was massive for it, man. He got to spend time with my son and everything like that, and he got to bond. My son's actually named after him, so wow. he got to bond with my son and everything. So, it was that was the silver lining for me, is that he got to spend time with my son during that period, and we all got to spend time together and bond, and those are the moments you never get back. So. Yeah, it was good, man.
Yeah. And the captainship, so you're the captain of the Scotland rugby team. What does it take to be a captain, do you think?
Oh, geez, man, that's a big question.
Typical podcast question.
I think what I've learned anyway about being, or like leadership in general, there's so many ways to skin the cat, you know, like not all leaders are the same, but there's plenty of effective ways to be a leader, you know. And I think for me anyways, it was at first just owning the fact that you have influence. Like I remember ever since I was a kid, when I was getting in trouble at school, you know, I'd be in the principal's office or be in, you know, getting in trouble, and I'd be getting screamed at by teachers, and they'd always be like, "You don't understand, but these kids follow you."
Yeah.
And I would never understand and I'd be like, "Oh, I didn't ask them to." You know what I mean? That would always be my reaction because I probably didn't own the fact that people people maybe want to follow me and stuff like that. And I think the first part of leadership is owning the fact that you do, people want to follow you, you know? And that was a big part for me because I never really looked at, like I always felt that I did have pull, but I never really wanted the title, you know, and then when you own it and everything like that, you accept that your leadership is why you're in that role. You know? They've put you in there for a reason, and owning that, you know, and for me anyways, I think my style of leadership is high energy, like you've assessed about me, you know, that I want to lead by action and be high energy and be a motivator for my teammates. And I think that those are the two things that sticks out to me anyways of all the other leaders that I've you know, kind of looked at, is that there's plenty of ways to skin the cat, and I think the most important thing is accepting your style of leadership, you know?
Yeah. I can feel that off you. I can feel the motivation. I can also, so there's alpha males, beta, and then have you heard of sigma male?
No.
So actually ADHD plays a big part in it.
Yeah.
Or neurodivergency plays a big part in it actually. So sigma males are essentially people that like don't care, they do their own thing.
Right.
So they go their own way. And in doing that, people tend to follow, because they're kind of doing stuff that's so left field that people find it interesting. So they just kind of come to see.
Yeah.
But typically speaking, neurodiverse people do that a lot because they can't help it.
They just go on with the flow type thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what's funny is actually, me and Demo, this is ages ago, Jack Dempsey, we're real close.
Yeah.
And Jack holds himself to the alpha male standard. You know what I mean? Like, and he assesses people on their alpha male standards, you know what I mean? And and I remember we were having a beer and I was just like, we're pretty close now, bro, you know, me and you. And I'll just tell, you know, we do actually have very similar personalities, me and you. He goes, yeah, you really surprised me when I first met you. And I was like, why is that? And he was like, because you're an alpha male in a beta body. And I was like, I don't even know if that's a compliment, bro. Obviously, because he's a 6'5", a massive dude, and I'm not as big as him. And it was his way of telling me, yeah, you're an alpha male, but you're not as alpha as me. You know what I mean?
You're not quite there yet.
Yeah, you talking about alpha and betas has just made me remember about that.
Who do you think is the most alpha male rugby player out at the moment?
Well, we've had this conversation recently. My honest answer, the most alpha male rugby player I've ever been around, Demo would be up there, but I think it's also because he's also a very peculiar man. You know what I mean?
Like very detailed.
Like, well, no, there's mystery around Demo. You know what I mean? Because he doesn't speak to anyone. He comes into training, and some days he'll say 2 words for the whole day. And that adds to his mystery, you know what I mean? But I play with Amanaki Mafi. You won't know him. He's a Tongan fella. He also in Japan. Look, I won't get into it, like the yarns and stuff about him, but he's the biggest alpha I've ever played with, definitely.
Yeah. What a scary motherfucker.
It's not that he's scary, he just couldn't turn down a fade. Like, if it was presented to him, if something was presented to him in terms of a challenge, there is no way he could turn it down. You know what I mean? And that's just, to me, what an alpha male is. He'd probably be the biggest alpha male that I've ever played with.
If you guys enjoyed that clip, please do me a huge favor before you go and head over to our Into the Mind podcast official page, where we have the raw, uncut Into the Mind podcast, and hit that subscribe button. And the more subscribers we get, the more incredible guests we can get on the show. I really appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you so much. And I'll see you all real soon.